Is telepathy possible? Welcome to Philosopher's Corner. I'm John. Is telepathy possible? So, telepathy is the nonverbal communication of information mentally from, in this case, one human to another human. So, essentially, mental text messages. So, is it possible? Are humans telepathic? Is it a form of communication that we have available to us? I think it is. I'd say right off the bat, I'm biased. And, philosophically, it's for sure possible, right? When we start looking at the hardware we're working with, I think for any sort of question when it comes to human capability, we look at the biological hardware that we're working with and determine if we have particular organs or functions or some sort of hardware in the body to support the possible ability that we're looking into. And then the second tier of analysis, if we've determined that there is some sort of biological organ or capability that supports the capability, rather, then we go into and we try to search for demonstrations of that through history. Doesn't matter where we can find them, and we just start looking into cases to see, where it's been demonstrated. So in the case of telepathy, I don't think anyone's narrowed it down biologically exactly. Maybe I just haven't done enough research. But it would seem that what we have in the brain, especially with the third eye, is the third eye we know can pull in certain spectrums, certain frequencies of energy for interpretation into the brain. And it appears, and according to the ancients, also has the ability to transmit. Right? And I forget the name of it, where there's an organ that converts electricity into, it converts the impulses into electricity, like piezoelectric, I think, like little crystals, like the DMT activation area of the brain, where it does that conversion. So we know we have that in the brain that can convert energy frequencies into electrical impulses for interpretation by the brain. And once we have that physical mechanism identified, that's really what we need, because what we're saying in terms of the hardware of telepathy, we need something in the brain, something in the core operating area of the brain that can act as a transducer, which means that it can both receive information and convert it into electrical impulses that go to the brain, and then it can conversely take information from the brain electrically and put it into that same organ and send it out externally somewhere. And on the surface of it, we'd appear to have those mechanisms inside the brain. Now, if you're an MD or something in there and you know about this and you know which organs they are, feel free to write in the comments about it. But basically, we appear to have the biological mechanisms sufficient to carry out telepathy. So when we start looking at the history of telepathy, and we start seeing that it's a widespread topic of interest throughout human history and throughout every level of society, from big governments doing research and development for military reasons and other reasons, all the way down to, local individuals who just have the gift and want to explore it in different manner. We have a long, rich tradition of people exploring telepathy to various degrees of success and non-success. But what we found by looking throughout all of these studies, I mean, the Russians starting the Cold War famously put a lot of research and development on their military side, and then the U.S. followed suit. They have a movie called Men Who Stare at Goats, which is all about a military unit that sought to develop all manner of psychic ability for military advantage. And telepathy was certainly chief amongst them. And many scientific institutes and many parapsychology departments throughout the world specifically research all these phenomenon. Like I said, various degrees of success. But the point being that there are any degrees of success with telepathy. That's, to me, in the philosophical analysis, if for telepathy to exist, you only have to have repeatable demonstrated cases in a handful of instances, like really just one, to prove that it's possible. And when we look through the research results, we have tons of people who have demonstrated different levels and forms of telepathy. Now, are we going to get people who can conduct all of their daily communication telepathically? I mean, not yet. Because we're at a point of understanding of it that's very rudimentary. And there aren't a whole lot of other people to practice with, so to say. But what we do have is we have a tremendous amount of scientific testing that, beyond the shadow of a doubt, proves that at least one person on the planet has done it successfully. Now, I'm saying that a little bit in jest because we actually have case studies of tremendous amounts of people demonstrating telepathic ability. And in this case, for the sake of our discussion, all we really need is just one single human being to have ever displayed adequately telepathic abilities at any level. Even if it's just, I mean, it has to be repeatable, but it doesn't have to be a massive amount of proof for us to then say, oh, well, it's possible, it's true that it's one of these abilities that human beings have that for whatever reason is either dormant or it's evolving or we had it previously and it's been removed from us for some reason. You know, maybe it's just atrophied. We don't really know. But we do have enough scientific testing up and down, and we have enough traditional sort of folklore of it, whether it's, you know, and this is where it's good to look into these groups that normally people don't look at with like a positive look, but now it's a good thing to look at when you look at like, you know, gypsies and nomads and traveling psychics and these types of people. And they traditionally get a bad rap because society makes them live on the fringe or outside of society. And their real thing about their culture, predominantly, when you get to know them or get to the core of it, is what they're really saying is we actually have advanced psychic abilities and advanced spiritual abilities that we're not allowed to profit off of when we're inside normal society. So we're going to stay in our, you know, fringe mode of life, basically. But within their communities, it's no secret that, you know, telepathy is a gift that some of them have. And I would say that on a much more normal basis, on a regular pedestrian level, most, if not everybody's experienced some level of basic telepathy. The telepathy is being like, oh, right before you get a text, you know someone's going to text you, or like right before the phone rings, you have this feeling someone's going to call you, or you can read your spouse's mind, or you can read somebody you're close to's mind, and not just in a little way, like in very specific ways. And I think some of the tendency to dismiss these casual demonstrations of what the latent telepathic abilities are just that in those instances, a lot of people go, well, I have contextual clues. You know, I know this person really well. You know, I know it was around dinner time. I know they were hungry, so I knew they were going to like think about this thing because I know their preferences and da-da-da-da. But that's fine. That's also a part of telepathy. Like, telepathy doesn't always have to be a blind read. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that sometimes people aren't just doing good deductive logic and going, oh, I knew they wanted it was dinner time. They were hungry, and I knew they wanted fried chicken because that's their favorite thing on Thursday night for comfort food. But sometimes the contextual clues are really just there to enhance the telepathy, make you feel like make you more open to it in a way. So I think a lot of times we get these sort of telepathic text messages because a lot of our intuitions that inform us about some of these things, they're really actually telepathy. They don't always just have to be a one-for-one straightforward like mind conversation. And telepathy doesn't always have to be words. Telepathy can be just the same way with text messages. You can send a GIF, you can send a photo, and you can send a concept. So a lot of times we'll get a flash of a vision, a flash of a thing, or even an olfactory telepathy, you know, like, oh, a smell came in or something. And to be perfectly honest, a lot of the great teachers, when they're lecturing, they're doing a little bit of telepathy, because not only are they speaking and imparting their wisdom through verbal language, but they're also using their mind to mentally transfer images, concepts, and more sophisticated contexts from their brain. And I think anybody that's in a situation who's been made aware of this, I think they'll see it, they'll feel it more for themselves of that fact that is actually occurring. Almost all speeches, when they say, oh, that person's like really painting a picture, and you can kind of see it. Well, to what other sense would you attribute that ability to start to visualize in your mind in a way where it's not just you, other people are also, you know, seeing it, and it's a vision that people are, without an external vision actually occurring, it's an internal vision that's like propping up through people's intellectual reception, right? That's telepathy. It's not just straightforward guess what's on the back of this card, or like send me a word. It's this general transfer of vision, thought, concepts, and words, just language in general, from brain to brain. More like mental text messaging than anything else. And I think that as we become more conscious of our ability to do it, and we practice it, and we get good at receiving it and giving it, and we can change this inertia that's been happening for the last few thousand years of people not really using it, and really help it flourish. Because I think for sure it's a natural, latent Homo sapien trait, you know. And that goes further into, I don't know if the numbers are really real when they say we only use 10% of our brains. But if you look at our brains as the computer that it is, which is phenomenal, and no other computers, it's like laughable how far behind computers are versus the human brain in every capacity. So if we're only using 10% of it, and we have all these other organs inside our brain that we don't even deny exists, that do all these things that we don't even know what they do yet, I think it's safe to assume that a lot of these brain power and a lot of these organs inside the brain are designed for higher level psychic functions, which for sure include telepathy. So, telepathy, I think we have it. So, thanks for spending some time here at Philosopher's Corner. I hope you found it helpful. And as always,